I'm your father, you listen to me. Stop all that emasculating, no one's listening. Tell me why I need permission to speak. I am your father, you listen to me. Mrs. Big Girl, pulling down the whole world, saying all that blah blah blah, chirping like an untrained bird. Cause you're menstruating, straight up men hating. Cause you got hurt, so now you control our babies. Yet your opinions are wrong, consider yourself gods. Bet that feels like equal to you. Must have forgot who you're talking to. I am your father, you listen to me. Stop all that emasculating, no one's listening. Tell me why I need permission to speak. I am your father, you listen to me. Y'all need a masterclass in discipline. Learn all about compromises. This movement is phony and eroding like these oldies needing a man. Bet you think all men like this. Stay sad and lifeless. You with your God complex. It takes two to make life, bitch. Yet your opinions are wrong. Consider yourself gods. Bet that feels like equal to you. Must have forgot who you were talking to. I am your father, you listen to me. Stop all that emasculating, no one's listening. Tell me why I need permission to speak. I am your father, you listen to me. Shake that wrong, 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 wrong. Shake that wrong, 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 wrong. So I talked about this briefly in the other video, and I'm going to be shooting through all of these really fast. This is going to be about an hour video, but it's a raid guide video, so this isn't for experienced players, although it could help experienced players, and you guys could add to this in the comment section for other new players, but this is really for new players to learn the raids by watching the guide videos that other content creators provide, but then also just looking at this and getting some generalized ideas, okay? So first off, we're going to talk about this concept here, which I represented before, or I told you guys about before. Represented, oof. But anyways, basically this is the Kyengale example that I gave, where it's a shorter distance to run from here and here than it is here and here. So if the orb is on this orbit, then by running at this orbit, you'll be able to keep up with it without going the same distance. I don't have like an on-screen measure or anything to prove this, but if there's any mathematicians in the chat that understands geometry to a certain degree, maybe I could even just pull up how a circle works type of thing, or how orbits work. But this is a true thing. I think they use this in aerospace, but it's not complicated math. It really isn't. It's just how a shape works. So again, just keep that in mind, that this distance is longer than this distance and the same. So it's kind of like that, actually. That's a really good way to put it, is that you can basically, like, if you're running along with your orb and your orb's here, right? If you were to stay running along in the circle here, it's going to take you longer than if you just kind of cut the corner here. Does that make sense? So that's just one example. We're going to quickly move on to the next one, because these are just basic shape concepts that I want to get across, and then we'll move on to the more in detail to our per raid. And I'm going to be covering a lot of the raids. I think at least Valtan, Vicus, and just this one, and then I'll maybe split up the other ones for later, because this is more for the newer players. But then we have, again, the boss is up here. Okay, and it's a cone attack pattern, and it's, again, just geometry. I'm just kind of showing you how a triangle works. If you're in this region, right, and you're the little mini diamond, you have to go pretty far either direction to get out of the distance of damage. The closer you get to the boss, the easier it is to avoid that damage. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. That's why, so when you see people who are like standing way out here trying to dodge shit, like, that's just, they don't know the fight well enough. That's why they're standing out there, and they need to learn how to play more in this range, even if they're just learning the fight. because and this is why I did this picture, was because all of this is essentially all the attacks that you ever see in a fight, except for certain line attacks and above sky attacks. But it's basically all the attacks that you'll ever see in a fight. And then we have this third one, which is again similar to this one, where the boss is centered. This is relevant for like Gate 4 Brel. Gate 4 Brel, this is very relevant. So Gate 4 Brel, when you kill the cube towards the end, or actually any of the stagger checks, there is yellow squares that get like sent out in these directions, right? And that same principle that we're talking about right now applies here, where if you are closer, except it's the opposite though, if you're closer to the boss, it's harder to dodge these than if you just kind of like take a step couple. So when this mech's happening, after you hit the stagger, if you just walk away, you have more distance here to avoid these than you do if you're like right here. Does that make sense? And actually, you know what's funny is I can just kind of show that right there. Like if you draw a line here and here, and then if you draw a line here and here, you have way more space to dodge on the in-between. Okay, the next one will be short. This is kind of this Valtan. Valtan Gate 1 really only has one mechanic that you have to worry about. The rest of it's just kind of basic attacks. I'm not going to tell you how you have to use Panaceas if you're more on eye level to cleanse and stuff like that. Obviously, if you're a high damage group, you don't really see a lot of that stuff anymore. If you're a low damage group and you're more of an eye level group, I just want you to keep that in mind, that you're going to, everything you need to learn about the raids, you can learn from either ATK's guides or Memorizer's guides in regards to like cleansing yourself and stuff like that when you have buff stacks. And maybe I'll show a quick example. Actually, I'll just tell you, like, your buffs are at the bottom right above your health bar and mana bar, so that's kind of where you can look for your buffs. As for this one mech that the Gate 1 does have, Gate 1 Valtan, oof, can't really draw there apparently. Valtan, oof, that's ugly. It's that same concept, so I try to draw out with stars here. What I believe you should do is the player. So like player 1 should just kind of take the orb immediately. Player 2 pretty much takes the orb immediately too, but they do need to make sure that that first person takes it. While this is happening, you will actually see a counter. It either goes, I don't even remember because I just kind of know how to do the mech now. It either goes from 8 to 1, subtracting 1 every time you take an orb, or I think it actually goes from 1 to 8, adding 1 to the buff stack underneath the boss's buff bar. It'll be underneath the boss's bar as you take each orb. So either way, whether it goes 8 to 1 or 1 to 8, I don't remember, but the point is that the first person takes the orb, the second person takes the orb, the third person takes the orb. All 3 of these people, or 4 of these people, even the 4th person, could be inside very close to the boss. Grab, 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 grab. It's fast. Bang, 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 bang. And then 5's the only person who has it tricky, honestly, because they're either going to stand outside here with 6, or they're going to stand inside. And I think they should stand inside because it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bang, 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 bang. Like if you ever watch the bus, right? And this is actually my tip to you, is to go watch a bus video. The way a busser will do it is they will use the Panacea, the Splendid Panacea down here, and they'll grab one and quickly run around, actually using that circle orbit concept again. Because if they grab them out here, it's a longer orbit than if it's here, and it's just grab them all really fast, right? So the reason I'm saying this is that I think that should help a lot of people out. A lot of people aren't going to need this. And then when it gets to 6, 7, and 8, this is where you have to start playing with your orbs a little bit. 6 has to, in my opinion, stand somewhere here, unless 1 through 5 is really fast and you can rely on them. Then 6 could be inside to grab it, but I really wouldn't do that. You have quite a lot of open space here in the bottom left corner for 6 to run around and roam, especially if 5's on the inside, or even if 5's down here running this way, right? Clockwise. Clockwise, counterclockwise. Counterclockwise. Because you're running counterclockwise at this, actually, I think. Are you? Is it clockwise? Oh, yeah, it's counterclockwise. So 6 is going to run basically down this way, and you'll always be safe if you do this. So as soon as you see 5 take it, it's not complicated. 6 takes it, and then 7's probably kiting towards 6. 7 takes it, and then 8's kiting towards 7, and they take 8. It's not complicated. Okay, next up is Valtan Gate 2, and we're just going to talk about this briefly. Essentially, so you have the first weak point where you throw 1 corrosive, and that's all nice and dandy, don't get me wrong. And if you guys can't figure that out, basically everybody goes here, there, and they break the Valtan, right? You have one person throw corrosives, you have 7 people throw destructions. Really, the only problems I ever see at this part is when people are cheap. And that's kind of it. That's fantastic. I don't know why you felt the need to fucking do that. I was just trying to make the image bigger, but it's not really working with me. But yeah, anyways. So essentially, that's kind of what you're seeing here. Without showing it, like, on screen. And maybe I'll do, like, live raids, and I'll do, like, one of each, and I'll just kind of show what I do, but... you know what? That might actually be a good... No, we'll stick with this. But anyways, so the reason I want to talk about this is that 160 bar mech, right, where you have to do the destruction, or before 130, I guess. I just want to say for the groups that are more on eye level, because that's what we're seeing a lot of with the new player base, or just the lower levels, you can actually double break. Because I remember when we were doing it, the damage was sometimes a problem, right? We'd hit berserk walls, people would die, etc. There is a way to double break this guy in the first 2 wall smacks, and it's just throw 2 corrosives. So you have 6 people, well, technically, so you have 7 people still carry destructions. 4 people are going to destruct on the second wave, and 3 people are going to destruct on the first wave, right? So essentially what you're doing, and this is really important for the corrosive person to know this, is that if you're the person who's throwing the corrosive, when you first enter the fight, corrosives have like 20 to 30 seconds or something like that. You need to throw your corrosive immediately. Immediately. This is the one corrosive, or the one person corrosive method for the double break method. And what I mean by that is you're going to enter into the stage of the fight. Your visual. Here's your POV. You're going to see the stage of the fight. Your corrosive person is going to throw the corrosive immediately. Immediately. Before he even starts going down like he's going to charge, you're going to throw the corrosive immediately. You're all going to line up on that right wall. The corrosive will still be active. You guys will get that first break. Only 3 of you guys are going to throw destructions. Probably the same party as the person who's throwing the corrosive. Then, the second time he hits the wall, your person who threw the corrosive, if they did it correctly and they threw it right off the bat in the beginning of the fight, should have their corrosive cooldown back already, why you only need 1 person with it. And then they throw the corrosive again on that second wall smash, and then the other 4 people from the other party throw their destruction grenades to get 2 breaks and 2 smashes. It's probably one of the best ways to go about this. Every time you get a break, you get meter too, so it actually helps you build way, especially even for the higher tier groups, like the super damage groups. This is a better method because it gets you Balthor and allows you to get 2 breaks and move faster through the fight. Just my opinion. Next up, we have pillars. Again, this is that same concept. If you're the person being targeted by the cone, that it is easier to dodge on the internal part of the cone. I think we're actually just going to open this maybe in Paint. Can I do that? Am I going to have to save it? Yeah, I'm going to have to save it. You know what? Why don't we draw that out? What's happening there? Cone. Okay, yeah, we'll draw that out. Draw it out. Let's go ahead and do File, New. Save. Okay, so basically what you're seeing there is we had 4 pillars. Oof. We had the boss at the center. And then we have some cones coming off of him. I had a really hard time getting cones to work last time, so just bear with me. But we have cones coming. Oh my god. Yeah, this was really hard. Like, I tried doing this last time, drawing a triangle, and it was just like, what the fuck? Whatever, we'll do it like this maybe. Oh my god. But yeah, so something like this. And essentially, if you're the player, it's the same concept. What you really want to do is you want to try to stay closer in here, right? And then when the explosion goes off, if you're close in here, you can easily exit, right? But if you're up here, it's going to be a lot harder to dodge, right? It's easier to get to these pillars after, but it's harder to dodge. So what you should be doing, and it's really not hard, every single class can do this, and every single class has enough time to pull this off, is you should be hanging out in this like middle ground region, where it's quick and easy to dodge out of the way, and then right after you dodge, you can immediately start running up and towards whatever side that you need to. Okay, and if you chose to dodge this way, it would have been the exact same thing. Okay, it's not a complicated mech. That's actually a really easy one. You know what my biggest raid guide is, actually, if I'm being honest with all of this, is follow this. Know the HP bar. So my biggest tip of all my tips for all of these raids is to just know these HP check holds, or these check holds, these thresholds. Because as long as you know, I can't write on that, but can I drag that in here? No. So as long as you know these HP check marks, then the arena breaks should never hurt you. It's 85 to 90. I don't know why it says that, and then 30 to 35, whatever the hell that is. But the cutscene thing, again, you just watch their guide videos. They'll teach you how to do it. It's like a 3-second counter. There's no reason to tell you. But again, if you know these HP bars, the rest of this kind of falls into place. So I'm saying this because the 2 arena breaks, I shouldn't really have to explain this. Like, I just shouldn't. You're going to lose, you know, half of the arena. Or not half. How does it work? It, like, shaves off, like, the other side of it. But basically what's going to happen is eventually you're going to lose parts of it, right? And then you can officially be knocked off. Or easier knocked off. Or no, actually just knocked off. And you're going to lose, you know, 1/2 at a time. Right? So, it's random, but at like 85, 90, 90. I mean, you're listening to me, so I actually don't have to type all this shit out. But at 85, 90, that's going to break, and then at 30, 35, that side's going to break. Okay? And it could be vice versa, and then you're stuck with the smaller arena. So now let's get to the end part where we have the ghost phase. And you need to counter. I would argue that the 2 supports should be, you know, cycling between buffs, shields, counters. Buffs, shields, counters. So my advice for supports is buff, shields, counters. My advice for when the ghost phase starts, and they do that initial part where everybody kind of time stops or Balthors it. If you don't have Balthor for it, I might, like I said, I'm going to do a play-by-play guide part too. So each of these I'm going to have a corresponding, you know, play-by-play as well. That I haven't actually recorded yet, so I have to do that. I'm not playing today though. I'm like doing just ridiculous amounts of uploading and shit. Again, tired. It's like a standard. I got like 4 hours of sleep last night, but yeah, but that's it. I don't have much more to add to that. That's Valtan. Like, it's really not too complicated. I do hope that a lot of the shape stuff helps you. The biggest piece of advice I can give you is to preemptively anticipate what needs to be done. That your damage is not the damage. And if you have somebody in the party that their damage is the damage, then that's a different story. You should have an easier time doing the raid, right? But if this is a relatively close to eye level, or even if it's an over-leveled piece of content, that you staying alive is more important than you getting MVP, because this is a team-based fight. It takes 8 people to clear something like this, so there's 8 people's worth of damage that should be going into this. And that doesn't mean I'm telling you to run around in circles on the outside of the fucking map. I'm just telling you that putting your life at risk in these raids to try to get a little extra damage over being mentally prepared for whatever's coming up next, i.e. mechanics, is dumb. So take good looks at these lists, get really familiar with the HP check marks. I do think some of these raids have changed since the updates, like they've taken stuff out, so this might not be an accurate one to look at. Get an accurate one, obviously.
Let's go! Public enemy, number 1, when we mobbing. Trouble in the streets, so we come with the spotting. Public enemy, number 1, and we mobbing. Bring it on, bring it on. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Trouble on the way, wait. I want my revenge. Welcome to the payday. Hungry for destruction, crazy for the cray-cray. Better clear the exits, make a way to vacate. Ready to rage a riot, I wanna raise a silence, yeah, yeah. People are safe and violent, it's with being a silent, yeah, yeah. They wanna make us quiet, breaking the cage of silence, yeah, yeah. They wanna make compliance, we gon' stick to flying, yeah. Time to write a new code, let's let the rules go. Show them why they name us public enemy, Uno. Yeah, they say we ruthless, we savage, yeah. There's a method to the madness, yeah. They say we psycho, the baddest, there's a method to the madness. 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 Savage, yeah, but there's a method to the madness. We gon' do it our way, never needed just kudos. Kill 'em with the chaos, only way that we do know. Lawless and ruthless, that's a dynamic duo. That we get the job done while you running your food home.